Welcome into Boxing Scene's top stories here on ProBox TV. Download the ProBox TV app. Never fall behind in your boxing news. Big question, how would Jaime Munguia bounce back after the first loss of his career against Canelo Alvarez against Eric Bazinian? Well, he answered that with a 10th round knockout that did have some drama, did have some comeback, did have some adversity. Well, to help me break it all down, Jimmy Smith, joined by Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, and ESPN boxing analyst Timothy Bradley. Tim, you were there. Let me start with you. What did you think of Munguia's performance? There were some ups and downs. Did have some defensive lapses, but came in big when it mattered. What were your thoughts?
I just like the way he managed the fight. I thought that Bazian did a great job. He had an excellent game plan. He was, using his jab very well, countering it very effectively. When he had the fight out at range, that's where he needed to keep this fight, because I knew sooner or later Munguia was going to close that distance. And once Munguia closed that distance, it was all she wrote, man. He started digging down to that body. Those body shots accumulated over time. And, Bazian started to fade a little bit. Munguia, I think the round before, I said he's taking this round off. I said he must be wanting to close to show 11 and 12. And that's exactly what he did, man. He put on the pressure, found his mark, set him up for the big left hook. But I thought it was a great showing. I thought Bazian, we found out a whole hell of a lot about him and his game. Very well-rounded fighter. He showed some toughness and grit as well. He was fighting back in spots, and that's what you get. That's how you know when you had a real fighter. When they take some shots and then they try to answer back, and answer that call. That's what you saw from Bazian. I can't wait to see Bazian fight once again. I just think that Munguia, again, too much experience at the end of the day. You can tell he learned a lot from Canelo Alvarez on how to, manage his time and know, hey, when I need to step on the gas. And when he did that, it was all she wrote. But a hell of a performance by him. I can't wait to see Munguia once again.
Chris, you were there as well. And one of the things I say about all-time great athletes in any sport, right? Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, they can be down a little bit. When they decide to turn it on, it is over. It's like the great ones decide to win. Munguia had a little bit of that in that fight. What was your thought on it, man?
Well, Tim and I were in the fighter meetings together speaking with Munguia, and I was thoroughly impressed with listening to him and interviewing him. Listen to the way he speaks. He's very articulate. He's very, very smart. He has a much higher boxing IQ than you would think based on kind of his style. But in this fight, you saw that. He gave a true-to-form, accurate assessment of what Eric Bazinian was immediately in the fighter meeting. Tim and I looked at each other, we were like, yeah, that's exactly what this guy is. He knew that he was a sharp puncher with a fantastic jab. He knew he had a good right hand and a good right uppercut. He knew that he boxed really well from the outside. Like you said, Tim, very well-rounded fighter. And Eric Bazinian showed that. I actually had Bazinian up or even at the time of the stoppage, but the momentum of Munguia, the game plan that he set, the traps that he was setting, the ability to turn up and turn down, consistently throughout the show, showed that he was weakening Bazinian as he went. And when he took that round 9 off, because literally I think he threw like 7 or 8 punches in that round, did absolutely nothing, just waiting, biding his time. And then round 10, he comes out like gangbusters. And Bazinian folded like a chair. He could not deal with the pressure at that point anymore. He was already mentally exhausted. He was physically fatigued. He'd never been past 10 rounds. That was the 10th round. That's the furthest he had ever been. And at that point, he's in with a guy who's really, really coming on, a guy who's been weakening his body throughout the rounds coming to that point. I agree with you, Tim. I thought it was a fantastic performance from Munguia. I still think he's the #1 guy just behind Canelo Alvarez. And I tip my hat to him for taking a tough fight against Eric Bazinian. Bazinian can fight. That guy, we're going to see that guy again. He's going to give a lot of guys trouble, especially with the experience that he developed in this fight from being in the ring with a guy like Munguia. So I tip my hat to both men. Both guys showed their skill, but Munguia, just too much experience, too smart in the corner. And I think with Eric Morales, hearing how he was speaking about Morales and the way that he strategizes and utilizes specific techniques, I think we're going to see a more improved and ever-improving Jaime Munguia moving forward.
Well, Paulie, let's talk about moving forward. Of course, Top Rank saying maybe December 14th, homecoming against Ronald Gavril. That would be in Mexico. Of course, Christian Mbili, perhaps a possibility as well. Chris just said he's second right now in the division to Canelo. Who do you see him fighting next and why, Paulie?
You know what? I do like that Gavril fight because, it gives him a chance to do that homecoming. Gavril has been a guy who at one time was a rather dangerous super middleweight. As a matter of fact, he had two tough fights with David Benavidez and gave Benavidez some trouble a few years back. So I wouldn't mind that because it's sort of that mid-range kind of fight that you can do as a homecoming fight, sort of like Canelo did with Ryder, where it's a good fighter, but it's a guy who's kind of, teetering at that edge at this point. And Mbili, I feel like, is a Las Vegas, top level fight, and plus Mbili, he may lose him to as a Canelo opponent, because you never know. That guy falls into the criteria for a Canelo opponent as well. I'm not sure, but the good thing is that there's options for this fun fighter. And the good thing is, you guys talked about his cerebral mentality, Champ Chris. You mentioned that, making a case for him as an analyst post-career, obviously, because he has the ability to break things down like that.
Very well spoken.
And then, both of you talked about, in the way that he knows how to manage the fight and technically win the fight. But what I liked most about this fight, about Munguia, is there's always that question after Canelo Alvarez payday, especially when you've accomplished what Munguia had already accomplished prior. You've won your world championship, you've beaten some top fighters, and you've been in tough fights. Sometimes you get that Canelo payday at that point, or that kind of
40 plus fights too, Paulie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
and
been through a lot. Yeah.
You're like, man, I've dug down enough. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to maneuver my way through these fights. He still showed hunger. He still showed determination. So that proves that it's not just, if you go get that money now, you're not going to be as hungry now, bro. Because this guy still went and took it. Bazinian was giving him a problem, technically, but he still knew how to mentally pressure him and physically pressure him. You could see, though, Bazinian was having success. The control of the fight was still in Munguia's favor. So the way the fight was being dictated was Munguia is going to dictate the way this fight's going to be fought. Then if you can win it, or if you can win some rounds, which against Munguia is possible because he's limited in some ways, okay, but you're going to work twice as hard as I'm going to work to win your rounds. And because of that, the sand starts dwindling out of the hourglass on guys like Bazinian. He never was able to make that stand where it's like, get off me and stay off me. Nope, was never able to do it. He was able to shot here, shot there, use a pretty good jab, never put a combination together where it's like, oh man, Munguia is going to leave him alone for a half a round now. Nope, never was like that. So he was able to nick some rounds here, nick some rounds there, but you could see, man, it's going to be tough, 12 rounds. And that's why 15 rounds was really the man maker back in the day, man, because you could not fight like this. You were never going to make it 15 rounds. Sometimes if you're clever enough, you can still get to 12 rounds. Bazinian was not able to do that. Munguia eventually took the air out of him completely and sapped him totally. And that's what I like to see most in this fight, is that a very hungry Jaime Munguia. And great point, guys, about Bazinian as well. He can be a crafty guy in this weight class as well. We're getting a solid weight class here, both as from guys that are winning, it's fun, and we want to see them fight each other, but also these guys that are losing these fights, Berlanga, Bazinian, McCumbee, they're still guys who you still want to see, maybe even against each other. They're still guys who can be in fun fights and interesting fights in this weight class. So this weight class is shaping up really, really well.
The superior boxer in this weight class is Caleb Plant.
Yes.
He's one of them. And I would slightly favor him over Munguia as of right now. Bazinian was outboxing him, in spots, right? Now, a Caleb Plant, think about a Caleb Plant, and now adding that inside game that he has. Yeah. If he can stay away from Munguia's left hook, now he's a real player in the division as well.
If Benavidez and Morrell do not return to 168, Plant is the guy behind Canelo. Plant is that guy.
I don't think so. From what I saw from the early point of that Trevor McCumbee fight, the physical strength matters. And Munguia is a very physical guy. McCumbee was throwing Plant all over the ring in the first 4 rounds.
All right, I want to see the fight now, guys.
Yeah, it's a good fight. It's a good fight.
Well, if we're talking about it here on ProBox TV, it means it's an excellent fight that the fans are going to enjoy. Thanks to my panel, looks like 168, even under Canelo, is heating up in a big way. Of course, we can get confirmation of the next move for Jaime Munguia. We'll let you know right here on ProBox TV. Until then, we'll be back with more top stories.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, October 9th. Chris, Primetime Colbert, and Omar Super Salcido step into the ring for what is sure to be a barn burner. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at ProBoxTV.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.